You are scrolling through your feed on a Tuesday night. Someone your age just posted their net worth update. $800,000 at 38. 2 rental properties. A maxed out 401k since 22. The comments are full of fire emojis and you close the app feeling like you missed something. Like everyone got a memo you never received. Here is what that post did not tell you. The Federal Reserve surveyed tens of thousands of American households and published the most comprehensive wealth study in the country. The median net worth for people aged 35 to 44 is $135,600. Not $800,000, not $1 million. $135,600. The person flexing on your feed is not the median, they are the exception. And the algorithm has been feeding you the exception so consistently that you started mistaking it for the rule. That gap between what you see online and what the data actually says, I call that the median reality gap. And once you see it clearly, the anxiety you have been carrying about your net worth might dissolve faster than you expect. If this kind of data-backed reality check sounds useful to you, stick around. We do this every week on Sarah's Money Map. Now let us get into the numbers. Because the Federal Reserve data goes much deeper than that single headline figure, and what it reveals about where you actually stand is genuinely surprising. Let us start with why the number you have in your head is almost certainly wrong. And I do not mean wrong in a bad way. I mean wrong in the way that makes people feel significantly better once they understand it. Most people, when they try to estimate their own net worth, do a version of the same calculation. They look at their checking account. Maybe they glance at their savings. They think about their 401k balance and feel vaguely reassured or vaguely panicked depending on the month. What most people do not do is add up everything the right way. And this matters enormously because the Federal Reserve's definition of net worth is not the number in your checking account. It is total assets minus total liabilities. Every asset you own counts. Cash, yes, but also your retirement accounts at current value. Your home equity, meaning what your home is worth right now, minus what you still owe on the mortgage. Any business equity, investment accounts. Even the car, to whatever degree it has value above what you owe. Let me give you a real example. Say you bought a home 5 years ago. It is worth $500,000 today. You still owe $250,000 on the mortgage. That means you have $250,000 in home equity sitting on your balance sheet right now. Add $150,000 in your 401k. Add $30,000 in savings and checking. Your net worth is $430,000, not $30,000. $430,000. Many people in exactly this situation walk around feeling financially behind because they are only counting the cash they can see in their bank app. They are ignoring the 2 largest assets they own. This is what I call the phantom benchmark problem. The number you are chasing, the $1 million, the $500,000 in liquid savings, the $800,000 your Instagram feed keeps showing you, that number was never built from Federal Reserve data. It was built from aspirational content created by people in the top 5 to 10% of wealth distribution, presenting their outcomes as if they represent normal. They do not represent normal. They represent exceptional. And there is a meaningful difference. Now let us look at what normal actually looks like, because the distribution data from the Federal Reserve tells a story most people have never been shown. The median net worth for age 35 to 44 is $135,600. That is the midpoint. Half of all Americans in that age range have more. Half have less. If your net worth is somewhere in that neighborhood, you are not behind. You are exactly at the center of the distribution. But here's where it gets interesting. The average net worth for the same age group is $549,600. That is 4 times the median. And that gap 4 times is not a rounding error. It is the mathematical fingerprint of extreme wealth concentration. A small number of households at the very top pull the average dramatically upward. When you read a headline that says the average American in their 40s has $500,000, that average is being carried by people with 10 million, 20 million, 50 million. It tells you almost nothing about where the typical 40-year-old actually stands. Median is the honest number, average is the distorted one, and almost every piece of aspirational content you have ever seen is implicitly referencing the average or something even higher, while presenting it as a reasonable target for everyone. Let me put this on a chart you can hold in your head. Imagine a long, flat bar representing all American households aged 35 to 44, arranged from lowest net worth on the left to highest on the right. The midpoint of that bar sits at $135,600. That is the median. Now, way off to the right, past 90% of all households, is the threshold where the top 10% begins. That threshold for this age group is $800,000. And past that, the bar does not end cleanly. It stretches further and further right, pulled by a relatively tiny number of households with extraordinary wealth. The average of $549,600 sits in the upper quarter of that bar, not in the middle. The middle is $135,600. If you have $200,000 in net worth at 40, you are not at the middle. You are in roughly the top 25% of your age group. If you have been feeling like that number is embarrassing to say out loud, the data says you are in the upper quartile of American wealth for your age range. That feeling of being behind was never based on data. It was based on a curated feed. Now let me walk you through the percentile threshold, because this is the part of the Federal Reserve data most people never see. Roughly the top 25% for age 35 to 44 begins around $120,000 in net worth. The top 10% begins at around $800,000. The top 1% is a different universe entirely. And it is the universe that social media has been quietly convincing you is the baseline. I want to stop here because I know the natural response to this. You might be thinking, okay, Sarah, I feel better about where I am, but should I not still be trying to do better? Should I not be measuring myself against a higher standard? And yes, of course, growth is the point. But there is a meaningful difference between measuring yourself against a target that is calibrated to your actual situation and measuring yourself against a benchmark that was never designed to represent you. Fidelity's guidelines suggest having roughly 3 times your annual salary saved by 40. That is a reasonable growth target built from real retirement math. The $1 million net worth at 38 you saw on Instagram is not a guideline. It is a data point from the 95th percentile being presented without context. Setting your target from social media is like training for a marathon by watching Olympic sprinters. The comparison was never valid to begin with. Once you remove the phantom benchmark, you can replace it with a number that is actually calibrated to your life. There is one more layer to this data that is worth examining because it reframes not just where you are, but where you are going. The Federal Reserve tracks wealth by age group across every survey cycle. The pattern is consistent and it is encouraging. Median net worth for under 35 is $39,000. For 35 to 44, it jumps to $135,600, which is the group we have been discussing. For 45 to 54, it climbs to $247,200. For 55 to 64, it reaches $364,500. Wealth accumulation follows a curve, not a straight line. The years from 35 to 55 tend to be the steepest part of that curve because mortgages are being paid down, 401k balances are compounding, and incomes are typically near their peak. The people you're comparing yourself to at 38 who have $800,000 are not following a different curve. They started at a higher point, often through inheritance, equity from a parent's home sale, or a liquidity event from a business or stock options. They did not get there through 38 years of normal accumulation. The 2022 Federal Reserve Survey also noted something remarkable about the period from 2019 to 2022. Median net worth across all Americans rose 37%. That was the largest 3-year jump since the survey began in 1983. Home price appreciation and stock market gains during that period lifted a significant number of households into higher net worth brackets without any change in their savings behavior. If you owned a home or held index funds during that period, your net worth likely moved substantially, possibly without you fully registering it. So let us talk about what to actually do with all of this. Because the goal today is not just to make you feel better. The goal is to give you a framework that is grounded in real data so you can make real decisions. Step 1 is to calculate your actual net worth today using the Federal Reserve definition. Not just the cash, everything. Pull your most recent mortgage statement and find the payoff amount. Look up your home's current estimated value on Zillow or Redfin. Subtract one from the other. That is your home equity. Open every retirement account you have and write down the current balance. Add your savings, checking, and any taxable investment accounts. Add any other assets of meaningful value. Then, list every liability, remaining mortgage balance, student loans, car loans, credit card debt. Subtract total liabilities from total assets. That single number is your real net worth. Step 2 is to locate yourself on the Federal Reserve distribution, not to rank yourself for ego, to calibrate. If your number is near $135,600, you are at the median for your age group. If it is above $200,000, you are in the upper quartile. If it is approaching $800,000, you are approaching the top 10%. Write that down. That is your actual position, built from actual data, not from a curated feed. Step 3 is to set one growth target that comes from your life, not from someone else's highlight reel. Fidelity's guideline of 3 times your salary by 40 is a reasonable anchor if you are still approaching 40. If you are past 40, the equivalent benchmark for 50 is roughly 6 times salary. These are not perfect targets. Every situation is different, but they are built from retirement math, not from aspirational content. A target built from math is something you can actually work toward. A target built from Instagram is something you can only feel bad about. Here is the reframe I want to leave you with. Net worth at 35 or 40 is not a report card. It is a snapshot of a process that takes decades. The wealth accumulation curve the Federal Reserve documents is not something that peaks at 38. It builds through your 40s and into your 50s and 60s. The households that show up at retirement with meaningful wealth are almost never the ones who had the highest net worth at 38. They are the ones who maintained a positive savings rate, kept their liabilities manageable, and let compound growth do its work across 3 and 4 decades. That process is quiet. It does not generate Instagram posts. It does not show up on a feed. It just compounds in the background while everyone else is performing wealth online. The number on your balance sheet today is not your destination. It is your current position on a much longer trajectory. And for most people who actually run the calculation correctly, that position is considerably better than they thought. I want to hear from you in the comments. Run the actual calculation right now or this week and drop your age bracket. You do not need to share the number. Just tell me whether you came out higher or lower than you expected. I read every comment and I genuinely want to know how many people discover they have been measuring themselves against the wrong benchmark. If this kind of data-driven perspective is useful to you, hit the like button. It helps the channel find more people who need a reality check built from actual research. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.